I know how to use it.
Hey there, Marvelous He-Man fans, welcome back to the channel. I was excited, as many of you, to finally lay my eyes on Travis Knight's take on the iconic He-Man franchise, with the Masters of the Universe film that dropped on June 5th this year. I think it's fair to say that the movie didn't disappoint, instantly playing to my nostalgia of growing up with this iconic franchise. However, as the movie approaches the end of its second week in the theaters, this hype and reception don't seem to be matching the box office numbers. On the contrary, as things are looking, He-Man Masters of the Universe is all but set to bomb at the box office, with meager earnings that have only fallen since its opening night. Besides being surprising, I feel that the more immediate worry for fans is that due to its poor financial showing, the sequel that Travis Knight had earlier hinted at might not materialize. So in this video, I'll be exploring everything you need to know about what's been going on with the Masters of the Universe at the box office and the ramifications. Thankfully, I can safely say that this video is not going to be all doom and gloom, because there is hope yet after Kevin Wilson, Amazon's distribution director, had some positive words to say about the performance of the film. I'll be exploring all of these things and more, so join me on what might just be our final trip to Eternia. Let's begin. He-Man won the fans, but the box office is still making everyone sweat. Finally, in what I consider an absolutely rare occurrence, we got a live-action adaptation that didn't completely butcher the source material. In fact, this new He-Man Masters of the Universe really played into the campy action narrative of the animated franchise, which really resonated with fans of the series like me. While obviously there are some pretty pompous critics lambasting the movie's apparent lack of depth, in my eyes it highlights their lack of awareness regarding what this franchise is all about more than anything. I say this because as a fan of the franchise, I love the fact that this movie didn't take itself too seriously. Add to that, the film had comic-accurate costumes and a great cast who all played their roles admirably. Special shout out to Jared Leto, who killed it with his portrayal of Skeletor. The initial perception of the film was that it was quite well received by the fans, and even a lot of critics as well. Disregarding the out-of-touch critics that I spoke about earlier, many of their colleagues have in fact praised the film, with their general consensus according to Rotten Tomato being, by the power of Grayskull and with a little help from its self-deprecating script and spirited cast, Masters of the Universe is a delightful adventure that finds the humanity in He-Man. Meanwhile, the website summarizes the audience's reception of the film by saying, a glossy action spectacle that wears its heart on its jacked sleeve. Masters of the Universe is a stud of a film. There was even more hype as mentioned earlier when the director of the film, Travis, revealed that a sequel was already in the works, with actress Lauren Saliu set to play She-Ra, who was teased in the post-credit scene. However, I think everyone knew that no matter how well received a film is by fans and even the critics, in show business, money talks. And it seems like our worst fears might be getting realized. Let's just say, approaching its second week at the box office after its release on the 5th of June, Masters of the Universe is not looking too hot financially. This has had fans like me worried worldwide that in case things don't pick up in the coming weeks, and it actually bombs at the box office, we might not get the sequel that was promised, no matter how well it's actually thought of in reality. The first weekend was soft, and the second weekend made things worse. Like I was saying earlier, in Hollywood, sequels almost always live or die based on the financial success of the first film. After all, these films are a commercial endeavor with hundreds of millions spent on them, and it's only natural for investors to want a return on their investments. The Masters of the Universe film is listed as having had a budget of around $170 million US, which is without taking into account the money spent on things like marketing, which takes the total past 200 million USDs. The film opened with a modest $29,439,929 US, which was 62.7% of the total gross amount spent on the film. While I know this isn't stellar by any stretch of one's imagination, it's still not a complete disaster. Sometimes films have a lukewarm opening, weak thanks to numerous reasons, like other big films releasing that same week, holiday schedules, and even other major events being lined up during that time, which takes the spotlight away from it, in my opinion. However, I think it's fair to say that usually by the end of the first or second week, it's pretty easy to see whether the movie has any real legs underneath it. Sadly for Masters of the Universe, there doesn't seem to be much of an uplift in this regard, with the earnings at the second week showing a 69.7% fall in revenue, earning a meager $8,925,213 US, taking their total earnings to $46,987,310. I actually find this surprising considering how well received it's been by those who have actually seen it. The keywords being those who have actually seen it, because for some reason, despite it being favorably spoken about, not many people seem to want to make the journey to their nearest theaters to catch this movie. The film Obsession, which is one of the biggest hits to come out this year, owes a lot of its success to word-of-mouth promotion of the film, and has already exceeded expectations. My only hope is that something similar happens with Masters of the Universe as well, because the way things are looking at the end of the second week, it's well and truly headed towards becoming labeled as a box office flop. This feels more like Transformers 1 than a guaranteed franchise starter. Unlike Michael Bay's 2007 Transformers film, which reinvigorated the Transformers IP and launched a huge movie franchise, the Masters of the Universe film seems to have more in common with the Transformers 1 film from 2024. I know that you're thinking, Transformers 1 wasn't actually a flop, unlike what the Masters of the Universe seems to be turning out to be. Yes, with a modest budget of around $75 million, it did return $129 million USD, barely breaking even. However, despite being also well received by fans and critics, the film was hardly a franchise launcher. The point I'm trying to make is that this Masters of the Universe film was supposed to do what Michael Bay's Transformers did, but instead it might end up being closer to the Transformers 1. For now, it seems to be moving in the same trajectory as the 2024 flick, which was also extremely well received but barely managed to recover its making cost. The scary thing for Masters of the Universe is that we haven't heard a peep about Transformers 1's sequel since then. Let's just hope the box office performance hasn't made the money men behind the film too jittery to back Travis Knight once again. Amazon MGM still has a reason to hope, and Prime Video could change the math. While the box office metrics are indicating a financial catastrophe for this film, it seems the people behind the movie don't seem to share that feeling of doom, which gives me some hope. You see, the film is mainly produced by Amazon MGM, and its domestic distribution chief, Kevin Wilson, said this when asked about the film's box office performance. Director Travis Knight and the entire cast and filmmaking team have delivered something truly special, and this opening is exactly the kind of critical first moment that validates our holistic distribution strategy, building awareness and engagement that will carry well beyond the theatrical window. I think if you read between the lines, what he's saying is that the box office metric is not the only way they're going to be judging the film's commercial success. As we all know, Amazon also owns its OTT service Prime Video, and can garner major engagement with that platform due to its presence in the long term. I think it's also important to note that Prime Video is just one part of a major ecosystem that this film belongs to. There are the iconic toys and merchandise whose sales it's supposed to boost, just like the original cartoon did. With a player like Amazon entering the fray, which has the money to tank the losses at the box office, I think we might just be seeing a shift in how success is viewed for a film, if we're to go by Kevin Wilson's words. At least the cast and the director Travis Knight seem to think so, having announced some of the casting and plans of the sequel already before the box office results have come out. The sequel hooks are there, but the green light is not. I think that if Travis Knight hadn't hinted anything about a sequel in the interviews, which he has, there are enough hooks in the film itself that tease one. For example, the film has 3 post-credit scenes that all hint that the adventure will continue past this movie. We know that Skeletor lives on and will be back if the sequels are greenlit officially, but more importantly, we get to see the return of Princess Adora, aka She-Ra, who is going to be played by the earlier stated Lauren Salieu. Let me tell you why this is such a big deal. You see, She-Ra isn't just any character, she's a fan favorite, whose presence will expand the mythos of the Masters of the Universe film to the next level. As the twin sister of Adam, she too possesses her own magical sword called the Sword of Power, and has her own magical animal companion. Where her presence expands the lore is the fact that she was actually raised by the first antagonist of the He-Man universe, named Hordak, but eventually finds her way back to the light. Hordak is basically the Morgoth to Skeletor's Sauron, and is much more ancient, if not as evil as Jared Leto's character. When asked about Adora's potential role in the film, Travis Knight said, "I can't say anything about She-Ra as it pertains to this movie. What I can say is that, when I approach a movie, I approach it as if I'll only ever get a chance to make this one movie. And so that's the way we did this movie, and it stands on its own 2 feet. It tells a story from beginning to end. I think it has a satisfying conclusion. And yet, there is a world that exists outside the frame of the film." Travis Knight also said this, "Look, it's a big world. These are amazing characters. There are so many stories to tell, and we gave everything we could to this movie. But there are many, many stories to tell, and if the world demands more, we'd be more than happy to give it." He's also said that, and I quote, "She-Ra will be a big part. However, I guess only time will tell if she gets to play that big part or not. Honestly, I think the doors are wide open for a sequel, and despite the doom and gloom regarding the film's box office performance so far, there's still a lot to be optimistic about." To conclude, honestly, I don't think the stage has been set for a sequel quite like this before any film. It has the people behind the film, including the distributors and the crew, optimistic, despite what seems to be a box office flop. It has a great story hook setting up a sequel, and most importantly, it has the approval of fans. What I'm most excited about is that if the Masters of the Universe does end up getting a sequel, we might be looking at a dynamic shift in how we perceive a film's success. If that doesn't happen and we don't get a sequel, this movie might just be heading down the same road as films like the 2023 film Dungeons & Dragons, which was just as well loved by the fans but never really caught the mainstream attention or hype. What are your feelings about a Masters of the Universe sequel? Let me know in the comments. For now, it's time to say goodbye. I hope to see you soon in the next one. Until then, stay safe and stay marvelous.